Good morning. It is Friday, the 20th of February. I'm Maeve McMahon, and this is Europe Today, your daily dose of European news and analysis, live here on Euronews. Coming up after the first ever meeting of Donald Trump's so-called Board of Peace, the United States has said it will pledge billions. It also says it will increase its oversight of the United Nations, make sure the organisation, quote, runs more effectively. Officials from over 50 countries attended the meeting, 27 as full members, with many others observing, including representatives from the European Commission. President Trump described it as one of the most important things he has ever done and welcomed the fact that 9 members pledged billions to help reconstruct the Gaza Strip. A handful of countries will also be committing troops. We can start by taking a listen to President Trump.
Certainly in terms of power and in terms of prestige, there's never been anything close, because these are the greatest world leaders. Almost everybody's accepted, and the ones that haven't will be. They're all joining, everybody, most of them very immediately. A few that we really don't want because they're trouble. I've seen some great boards, period. It's peanuts compared to this board.
For more, we can bring in Euronews' correspondent Maya de la Bum, who's been following this story very closely for us this week. So we see a very celebratory there, Trump saying that everybody is joining this Board of Peace. Maya, is that true?
I think it's a little bit out of touch with reality, because if you look at the number of countries which really join, it's 50 countries, as you said in your introduction. And from these countries, you only have 27 countries that have officially joined the board. And if you look at Europe, it's only, as you said, a handful of countries that are really joining this board. And the most committed member, as we saw yesterday on social media, is Viktor Orban, the Hungarian Prime Minister, who praised Mr. Trump, but also said that he was the only real representative of Europe as also founding member of the board. So, it's mainly Hungary. And if you look at Europe, they've all distanced themselves from the board. But you have different levels of commitment, clearly. You have, France and Spain boycotting the whole board. And then you have other countries which, sent diplomats, civil servants to show that still they want to be part of the conversation. This is Gaza. They need to be there. But in the end, European countries are not represented. They're not supporting. There's no massive approval here.
And meanwhile, the European Commission is always walking a bit of a tightrope on many topics. This one included, they did decide to send their Commissioner for the Mediterranean, Commissioner Suissa. She posted a photograph of herself very proudly being there yesterday. But many people are annoyed about this, especially the French, Maya.
Yeah, and it's quite unprecedented, because yesterday night, Jean-Noël Barrot, who is the Foreign Affairs Minister of France, wrote on X, so publicly said that he was he was against this decision of sending Suissa to DC. He thought that the Commission has no right to do this. The Commission has no mandate to do this. And if you look at this tweet, he says the European Commission should never have attended the Board of Peace meeting in Washington, as it had not received the Council's mandate to do so. So this really reflects the French position. It also reflects the Spanish position, which is to say there's no mandate because the mandate is validated by 27 European countries, and the Commission cannot play solo, cannot go there without any mandate. So it's quite unprecedented, because it's one of the big, member countries in Europe saying, no, the Commission has no right to do so. So it was big.
It was very big. And of course, you were reporting on that all week. And of course, it's a big topic that will dominate the upcoming Foreign Affairs Council taking place here in Brussels very soon. Maya de la Bum, thank you so much for that update. But now, coming up, we'll be joined by Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Reporter for the occupied Palestinian territories. She's in the headlines a lot lately. Recently, she stood accused of calling Israel the common enemy of humanity at a forum in Qatar. But as the transcript then of her speech later showed, she never made that comment. France is, however, calling for her resignation. We can take now a listen to the French Foreign Minister, Jean-Noël Barrot.
Les fake news, ça suffit.
Enough with the fake news. I did not distort or shorten Mrs. Albanese's comments. I simply condemn them because they are reprehensible and add to a long list of provocations, such as the justification of the 7th of October, the worst anti-Semitic massacre in our history since the Holocaust, in which 51 of our compatriots lost their lives. So yes, I said that these repeated provocations mean that she should have the dignity to resign.
D'avoir la dignité de démissionner.
So Francesca Albanese, thank you so much for joining us this morning on Europe Today here on Euronews.
Thank you for having me.
So you were listening there to Jean-Noël Barrot. How do you respond to the fact that the Foreign Minister of France is saying that you're not fit for the job?
It's his opinion. It's the French diplomacy's opinion. And I keep on asking them to respond to the content of my reports. It's already ludicrous that the French Minister of Foreign Affairs accuses me for something I never said, and then is scratching the barrel in order to give his anger a meaning. And so he says, yeah, she didn't say that, but she's untenable anyway. But again, let's not make it about me. I've prepared and submitted to the UN 7 reports which are damning, and also for France as a state and for some of French businesses. This is what his country, his governments needs to respond to. And the fact that they had more scrutiny over something I didn't say, that over the practices of a state accused of war crimes, crimes against humanity and genocide is telling.
But you've discussed the idea of the system. What do you mean? What is this system that you're criticising?
Absolutely. But this is what I've documented in my last report and so in the economy of genocide, economy of occupation report, I said Israel would have not been able to replace the Palestinians as it did in the occupied Palestinian territory, hadn't it been for a network of private actors, businesses, and even universities, research centers, banks, pension funds, etc. And then in the next report, I documented 62 states, among whom France, who have provided political, strategic, military support to Israel, so as while it was committing crimes against the Palestinians. And this is the system. Impunity, as the High Commissioner for Human Rights says, kills.
But you've said it's not about you, but we're reading more about you than about these documents. And Jean-Noël Barrot, the foreign minister of a very important country, has said he's lost the confidence in you. Do you plan to resign?
No, because I have the trust and of the Human Rights Council. I mean, again, the fact that it's about me, it's not something I can respond to. It's something that regards France, Italy, Germany, and the Czech Republic, who have gone after the French minister, amplifying the lie. Again, the reason why they're attacking me is a distraction in order not to talk about my findings. So convenient, but also so hypocritical.
And meanwhile, we've heard from the likes of Marco Rubio saying that the UN is obsolete. What is your view here?
Yeah, this is the thing. I've been saying that for years, that behind the assaults, for example, on UNRWA and then on my mandate and other parts of the human rights system, there was the beginning of a project, the dismantlement of the multilateral system, substituted, we see that now with the Board of Peace, with something else, which is more the expression of a new empire or an empire unveiled than multilateralism. But again, there is a movement that doesn't want it, and in fact is pushing for a decolonized multilateralism. And this is what we have to work on.
And what about the UN Security Council? Do you think it's a little bit obsolete?
Well, I think that there are parts of the UN Security Council that are obsolete. One for all is the veto power. The veto power reflects the world order of the past century. We need the decolonized multilateralism where each state has one vote. And it's not about adding new members who can have a veto. It's about removing the veto.
OK, Francesca Albanese, UN Special Reporter there. Thank you so much for joining us here on Europe Today on Euronews. But now, moving on, President Donald Trump has warned Iran that it must make a deal over its nuclear programme or, quote, really bad things will happen. Trump says in 10 or 15 days, the US will take some sort of action. For The View from Brussels, we're joined here on set now by Tommy Huhtanen, director of the Wilfred Martin Centre. That's a think tank based here in Brussels, affiliated with the centre-right European People's Party. Tommy, good morning.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, great to have you with us. Look, what is the view from Brussels here? Is another war on the horizon?
You mentioned Trump. It may be so that even Trump doesn't know exactly what's going to happen. My guess, and what I'm discussing with Washington, is that there's going to be an action. There's going to be a war. It's going to last maybe 24, or the hit is going to take 24, 48 hours. What is more unclear is what will happen after. I think the risk is a little bit there that in the ground there's a huge expectations that the US is going to stay there. I don't think so. And then there's a question: how is the follow-up? There will be ground operation. Israelis are going to be involved sooner or later. But what will happen? That's the question.
And of course, the wider implications then.
Exactly. I think in Europe, we need to understand what the possibility this is. Because if you look at Iran is the current regime is in war with its own people. It's creating havoc in the region, but also it's in conflict with Europe, helping Russia. Children in Kiev are dying because of Iranian drones. And I think that, what you can say is that there's a massive possibility for massive change on how the whole Moscow, Tehran, Beijing axle is going to work out. And I think it gives new opportunities for us to enhance our power.
So what is the role then that the European Union can play here?
Well, that's a good question. First of all, what will happen if and when there is a hit? If there is a civil war kind of situation, unfortunately, the tools are very little. But on the other hand, if there is a kind of Syria kind of quick switch or quick change, we could assume that the Europeans will get very quickly involved. President Metsola has already very clearly stated on behalf of the parliament that we are with the people. There are already, Manfred Weber made the initiative on opening the embassies, for demonstrators. That's an indication that we would be very quickly involved. However, I don't think that there's a strategy and thinking yet. But I think there's a political commitment and understanding, and that's a moment for us, for Europe to come in and really fix the Middle East.
And meanwhile, you're on the phone, you said, close contacts with your contacts in DC.
Yes, indeed. But of course, it's all about the president and what the president finally decides. Nobody knows for sure, and maybe even the president himself doesn't know.
Well, whatever the president does decide, we will report it here on Euronews. Tommy Huttunen, thank you so much for joining us here this morning.
Inviting us
on Europe Today, and for bringing us your analysis there from the Wilfred Martin Centre. But now, moving on, Christine Lagarde is expected to leave the European Central Bank in Frankfurt before her 8-year term as president expires in October 2027. Europe's top central banker, who joined the bank back in 2019 from the International Monetary Fund, wants to exit before the French presidential election in April next year. For more on what this all could mean, our Ida Sanchez takes a look.
Big changes are coming for the European Central Bank. After months of speculation, rumors that Christine Lagarde, the head of the ECB, will step down are coming true. Europe's top bank in Frankfurt said that the decision had yet to be made. But why would Christine Lagarde want to leave early? Reports suggest that a possible goodbye would leave room to French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Friedrich Merz to choose a successor before the French presidential elections. This would give them time to oversee the appointment of her successor, giving the current leadership of Europe's top 2 economies the chance to shape the future of the European monetary policy. Who would want to take her position? Spain might be one of the countries ready to step in.
Spain wants to play a leading role in the new council once the remaining positions are renewed. We are prepared should this situation or decision come earlier.
And they are not the only one, as Klaas Knot, the former Dutch central bank chief, might also be interested.
Ida Sanchez reporting there. And for more, of course, on what that could mean for the future of the EU institutions and who will run them, do take a look at our reporting on Euronews.com. But for now, a story that everybody is talking about. Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the former British Prince and brother of King Charles, has been photographed on his way home after spending some 12 hours being questioned by police in Norfolk yesterday. Andrew was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. For more on this major scandal facing the royal family, we can bring in our culture editor, our very own Tokes Salako. Good morning, Tokes. Great to have you with us here this morning. Look, this is a huge scandal, Tokes. Just bring us up to speed on the latest.
It is a huge scandal, as you rightly said, Maeve. It's sent shockwaves across the UK, which, let's face it, is used to hearing about scandals from the royal family, but also anything that happens there sends shockwaves across the rest of the world. The latest is, as you said, that Prince Andrew was released late last night. It was roughly around 12 hours after his arrest. No charges have been made regarding that, the suspicion of misconduct in public office. And the raid that took place at his Berkshire home is still continuing 24 hours after. That's at the Royal Lodge on the Windsor estate. Of course, but it's not the search which was taking place at his current home. Hopefully viewers can stay with me at the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, where he was arrested. That search is ended, but we don't know what's going to come from those searches. Of course, we do know that police have been looking for papers in relation to his former role as the UK trade envoy, a role that he had for roughly around 5 or 6 years. And we should make it clear, of course, that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has consistently denied any wrongdoing in relation to Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced financier and convicted sex offender. What we also understand now is that the King, neither the King nor Buckingham Palace had any knowledge of the arrest before the raid. However, the Home Secretary was informed by the National Police Chiefs Council, which has issued a statement as well this morning saying that it was in line with routine practice. It alerted its operational colleagues. No word yet from number 10, though, some might say, perhaps surprisingly. But unsurprisingly, Donald Trump has had a few words to say. He's described it as a very sad thing, adding that it's a shame as US lawmakers and survivors in the US, of course, are still calling for justice.
And interesting, Tokes, you mentioned it took the royal family by surprise there. I mean, what does this all mean for the monarchy, who are much loved in the UK?
They are still much loved despite their crisis. I mean, often in these situations we talk about, what must the mood music be like? And I would imagine perhaps in Buckingham Palace there might be a mix between sort of, embarrassment by madness or he ain't heavy, he's my brother. We read, of course, some of you would have seen the statement from King Charles yesterday, making it clear that no one is above the law. He called for the law and the investigation to be carried out. Interestingly, though, as I mentioned, there's been no real statement from number 10, but Sir Keir Starmer did appear on television yesterday, roughly around the same time as Andrew Mountbatten was being arrested, but it wasn't reported at that time. And he also made it clear that in the eventual possibility of action being taken against Andrew, that no one would be above the law. But make no mistake, even though charges haven't been issued yet, this is an enormous crisis for the royal family and as well for the monarchy. I don't think there's been actually an arrest in the royal family. They've had some good behaviour for nigh on about 500 or 600 years now. I think the last one was in 1605. Princess Anne was perhaps the last royal member to actually have been charged when she had a conviction for her dog biting somebody. But seeing as he's 8th in line to the throne, it could be a crisis.
Tokes Salako, thank you so much for that live update there on a story that is extremely embarrassing, of course, for the royal family. But that does bring this edition of Europe Today to an end. Thank you so much for your company, as always. More news and analysis, you know where to go. It's Euronews.com. Take care and see you very soon here on Euronews.